Welcome, everyone, to the Whisper to Roar Show. I am your host, Kym Glass, and I am so excited that you have joined us today to hear from some incredible authors that I have made and connected to along my journey. And we're continuing our conversation about feeling invisible. You know, when you think about networking, do you find yourself as a question mark or an exclamation mark? You know, this show is helping to provide insights, tools, and support to help you navigate your networking experience while you're out there sharing what your business is and what you're so passionate about. And so today, I have two incredible authors that are joining us to share their journey about about feeling invisible, and how did they shift from going to invisible to invincible along their life journey and also their business. So I want to welcome to the show our special guests today, Pamela Gort and Suze DeMello. Thank you so much for being with us today. I am just enjoying this conversation. You know, I posted out on Facebook not too long ago, do you feel invisible while you're networking? And I got so many comments and direct messages about that. And I was like, you know what? I know, and I have been connected with these women that are in an upcoming book. And what a great platform to help share your experience. So I'm going to start off with Pamela. I would love for you to share with our listeners today a little bit about your story and maybe what was the thing that made you feel invisible?
Oh, what a great question, Kym. And thank you for having me and Suze here. This is truly an honor to be part of your show. From a very young girl, I felt different from a lot of people. And I was afraid of being me. I was afraid of feelings that I was having. I thought I was the only one like this. Now, my chapter is called Come Out, Come Out. And you may kind of get a little hint as to what my story is about, but maybe not. I felt like if I told anyone what I was thinking and feeling, that I would be an outcast. I would be shunned. So I kept quiet. I was the good Catholic girl. I did everything right, followed the rules. And then many years later, I had no choice, but I came out of that dark closet I was living in. And I'll tell you, it was not easy when I came out to my parents many years later, but it felt like a release. It felt like the person I really was had taken off a suit of armor, a mask, a wig, and the real me came out. And it was phenomenal to actually be able to feel me. You see, I used to think that you needed permission from your family, from your church, from your community, from your friends. You needed permission to be you, but you don't. Just being here, being you, gives you permission. I don't know, did I answer your question? Would you like a little more?
No, thank you so much. I so like there were so many keywords that you said in there. And you know, that's what I love about interviewing different people, because we're all different, like you mentioned. And then yet, you know, maybe there's a shadow, maybe there's a mask, you know, that we start peeling that onion and decide, you know what, these are not things that I need to do for myself. You know, breaking patterns, I would say. We speak a lot about that, you know, breaking generational patterns to where you get to be yourself. And so I love I love the analogy that you shared, you know, taking off the coat, taking off the mask, and finding where that invisibility started. So thank you so much for sharing, Pamela. And now we're going to go to Suze. Suze, I would love for you to share with us a little bit about your story. And, you know, don't spill all the beans about what's in this upcoming book, but could you share with us a little bit about your journey?
I know that at my age, it's a little bit immature to refer to one's parents as a source of issues. I think that we should get over that by 25 or 30 or so, but facts are facts. And with people of my generation, our parents were definitely interested in molding and shaping us as opposed to discovering who we were and letting our talents develop and shine while they were being nurtured. My parents' idea of nurturing, and I think this is probably true of many, many people in my age group, the baby boomers, the parents were all about, you know, having the kid go to a prestige college, have a prestige sort of life, you know, career choices, things like that. I was programmed to become an attorney. Even though I knew very deeply it was not right for me, it wasn't what I wanted, and I just felt less invisible than shoved into a box that was very small and uncomfortable, or a too tight coat, which I think is pretty realistic considering I had to dress up in a suit and heels every day to go to my job, you know, clothes that I hated at a time of the day that was way too early, doing stuff I really didn't want to do. And the negative about that, the invisibility about that, was that my parents really didn't see me. They saw, you know, this bright verbal kid, and my dad was deeply into Perry Mason, and he thought his bright verbal little daughter should become an attorney. And it didn't have a whole lot to do with who I am or who I was, because of course that's changed over the years. So, wow, what was my light bulb moment? At one point, a friend encouraged me to write. He had a class called Writing for Publication, and I took that class. And in it, I learned that several thousand romance novels are published every year. This was back in the 1990s when we're talking about traditional print publication. And I said to myself, wow, I bet I can do that. So I did. And another career was born, and that was as a writer. And at this point, I'm an award-winning, best-selling novelist of 24 books. And I'm not counting the anthologies like Invisible to Invincible. I think I've done about 10 or 20 anthologies. So my light bulb moment was figuring out, hey, I don't need to live in this box. I can break the box. I could go do something else. And after I sold 2 or 3 books, I shut down my law practice with relief I cannot begin to describe. It was like if you've been in prison for 40 years of your life and you opened the door and walked out and breathed clean, fresh air. It was among the best things that ever happened to me. Was realizing I don't have to live in that box. I can break that box apart and I can be someone else. And since then, I think I've had 3 or more additional careers. And right now I'm retired, which is even better. But it's one of these all's well that ends well situations. My parents had confused me so much that I had no idea who I was. I had no idea what my values were. Now I do.
What a remarkable journey, Suze. I love your story. And, you know, we see that a lot where we may not know exactly what we want to do in our business. And so those opinions of others, and sometimes it is directly from our parents, that kind of move us in a path. And then there's kind of that light bulb moment that you talked about. That's like, you know what, I don't want to do this anymore. And so I'm just so in awe of that journey that you just shared with us, and breaking outside the box is such a powerful thing. I'm wondering, Pamela, if you would come back on and share with us, what was your light bulb moment that said, you know what, I not only am feeling different, but, you know, I'm taking off the coat, I'm taking off the mask, and I'm going to do something different. Can you take us back to that light bulb moment and share with us?
Absolutely. There was a moment, and I had been leading a double life. I was leading my straight life and my gay life. And I was at an all lesbian vacation called Olivia. And it was so hot. I was in Mexico. It was so hot. And I was a runner then. And I would run really early. Well, there was another woman who also had the same bright idea. And we would run together. And we're talking about everything under the sun, just a woman that I had met. And one day she said, "So are you pretty much out in your life?" And I said, not with my family and not with my college friends and not with this group. And she was shocked and she asked me why. And I gave my reason. And she told me the very reason that you are afraid to come out to them is the very reason that you should. Because I felt like I was going to be rejected. But what was I doing? I was rejecting them. And that kind of hit me like a ton of bricks. And I was like, oh my gosh, you're right. And at that moment, I committed to telling my parents, committed to her and committed to myself. And then what happened over the next month was really my story. And it was, her name is Eleanor Palacios. I have not been able to find this woman, but if I could, I would give her a hug and thank her for changing my life moving forward at that moment.
Thank you for sharing that, Pamela. And isn't so interesting? You know, I often talk about whispers, where we get whispers of downloads that eventually lead us to the path of whatever that goal is. But I also find that there's people that we meet along that way that are the whispers that help us to move in a different direction. So thank you so much for sharing your journey and that light bulb moment from someone that you met, maybe that you didn't even know that well, that triggered a spark to help you move forward. So when I think about both of your journeys, I know that you are both in business, obviously. I'm wondering if you could share with us, and we'll start off with you, Pamela. I'm wondering if you could share with us, you know, how did that feeling of invincible impact you while you're out there networking? Did you feel that same invisibility when you're out there networking for your business? Or maybe was it compartmentalized where you could be yourself and you could just represent your business without that feeling? I'm always curious to know, did that transfer over when you're out there networking? And if so, how did that impact your networking to build your business and relationships?
Well, there are times when I still feel like I'm afraid to be visible in all my greatness. And I think of Nelson Mandela's speech, Courage. And I think of those words, playing small doesn't serve the world. And I would say that when I'm out networking, first of all, I'm in my community, and then it's easy because I wouldn't be there if I wasn't supposed to be there. But when I'm talking to other people, I am proud about saying that I am a lesbian and I happen to be the lesbian love coach. And people are kind of at first, they're like, oh, wow, that's cool. What do you do? And I love that reaction. And I spent a lot of time in corporate America, much like Sue's, that I had that life that my parents encouraged. And I flew a lot. And I remember sitting on planes and the person next to me, usually a man, would say, oh, what does your husband do? And I loved saying my wife or my partner. And the initial reaction was often, oh, again. And then we would have a really great conversation. And I feel like I changed their life a little or their perspective a little on the LGBT community, whatever it was, like, oh, they're just like us. And I've also often had people say, thank you so much for sharing that you are a lesbian, because I would never have known it. And you're in fact the first lesbian I know. So, and you're a real normal person, something like that. But the invisibility part that I have even today is, am I the right person to be doing this business? And I have to remind myself, there's not a whole lot of people jumping to the front of the line saying, I want to coach lesbians on how to find love and keep love. And so I feel like I'm needed and I want to serve. So that's my answer.
What an interesting few comments that you shared, because when we think about networking, when we're out there networking, we want other people to feel like that they're seen and heard. And so I can only imagine in your story and what you've been through, Pamela, that you are free to share that. And I think we all agree when we're out there networking, like when we're sharing from whoever we are, we want to make sure that those other people that may think, live, or be different than us, they feel seen and heard. So I find that so important, because if we can give grace to other people and show up in who we are without attachment to someone else's belief, then there's such an opening into our business, and for also helping that other person that may feel a little bit uncomfortable, but yet they have the courage to speak from who they are. So so many wonderful nuggets of information that you shared there, and also a reminder to all of us to be open for those people that you meet that may be a little bit different than us, or may feel a little bit different from us, because I often say we're all on the same journey. We may just be in different stops along the way. And so I acknowledge you for sharing so vulnerably about your journey and your story, and how that has impacted you and has made you feel along your networking journey. So thank you, Pamela. And Suze, if you would share with us, how has your story, or that invisible feeling, does it show up still in your networking, or what have you found along your networking journey to help inspire you? This incredible attorney turned writer. What a powerful story.
Thank you. A lot of attorneys have turned to writing. I know several myself. A woman I went to law school with, Leah Matera, is a very well-known mystery writer. It's not an uncommon thing. I think it's a lot of people go into the law that really aren't suited for it. And as for me and networking, frankly, I am an introvert. I don't network particularly. I remember I used to be very involved with the romance writing community. And one comment someone made was that romance conferences, like the big RWA conference that I used to go to, it's full of introverts pretending to be extroverts. So, networking is not something that I do to develop my businesses. When I was an attorney, I went to all of these incredibly boring meetings. When I was a writer, I went to meetings that were much, much, much more convivial and fun. I advertise occasionally, stuff like that. But like I said, I'm retired. I'm letting all this stuff go. If people read my books, great. I love, love, love my books to be read. If they don't, they're a loss. Oh dear.
So Suze, I'm going to go right back to you. So for our listeners that are listening to us that may want to be able to find your books, you mentioned that you've written over 20 books. You're in this collaboration book, helping people understand your journey of moving from invisible to invincible. How can our listeners connect and find you?
Very, very easily. I'm extremely accessible on social media. On Twitter, I'm at Suze DeMello, all one word, SUZDEMELLO. That's also my Facebook handle. My website is suzedemello.com. My blog, which I'm not very enthusiastic about these days because it didn't sell many books, so why bother, right? Is called The Velvet Lair, spelled exactly as the way it sounds, no caps, no breaks, no punctuation. Yeah, just SUZDEMELLO. Google it and find me. I have an Amazon page. I have a Facebook page. I got all kinds of pages. I've written lots and lots of pages. And like I said, I love people to read my stuff. Just love it. And they can leave reviews. Leaving reviews is good.
That is so great. Thank you so much. So our listeners, make sure that you connect with Sue and find out all about her exciting books, and also her in the upcoming Invisible to Invincible book. And then Pamela, if you would come back on and share with us in your business, how are you helping people and where can our listeners connect with you?
Oh, thank you, Kym. I'd love to share. I am the lesbian love coach, So if you look that up on Google, you'll find me somewhere on the first page because there aren't too many of us out there. My website is lesbian, and that's spelled LESBIAN. I often have to correct mine, relationshipcoach.com. And on Facebook, I'm coaching with Pamela, but you can probably also put in the Lesbian Love Coach. I have the pleasure of doing a podcast called Lesbian Love Podcast that is really just monthly. And then I also write a monthly article for the website datingadvice.com. And I am the lesbian love expert. And I love sharing tips and ideas and guidance and even my personal story and how I've learned from that with the lesbian community, especially those looking for love or those who are in a relationship, but they want to strengthen it. And that is exactly what I do. I do dating and relationship coaching, and I love it. It's just brought me so much joy. And so from someone who was afraid to even come out of the closet to now be a lesbian love coach, I'd say that's a pretty big leap. And going from invisible to invincible is what my father did for me. And that's part of my story, which you can read when you get the book.
That's so great. Thank you so much, both of you, for sharing. And so to our listeners, if you want to hear more about these incredible women and their stories, be on the watch out. Invisible No More, Invincible Forevermore is launching the end of this month by our wonderful mutual connection, Linda Sunshine West, who I met over 5 years ago at a networking event. And she is doing this amazing collaboration book, bringing over 20 authors together, sharing their story, their journey about becoming invincible. And so be on the lookout. If you follow me, you will find all the information on the launch date and the link to order this upcoming book. And so I just want to thank both Pamela and Suze for sharing your incredible journey with our audience today. I'm so inspired by your overcoming and what you're doing and how you're serving others today. And so I want to thank you for being with us today. And to our listeners, thank you so much for joining our show today, helping you take your business and voice from a whisper to roar. My name is Kym Glass. It's KY as in yellow, M, glass as a drinking glass. My website is kymglass.com, and I look so forward to continuing the conversation to help you with the resources, tools, and support that you need to build your business and take your business and voice from a whisper to roar. Thank you so much for being with us today. We look so forward to continuing the conversation this time next week. Thank you and have a great